And thank you everyone for being here and joining our webinar. We are happy to be in the spotlight today and share with you some of the work that we've been doing at the Aspire Lab. So today I will be presenting together with current and former postdocs of mine, Yu-Hsin Hsieh and Michal Waisman-Nitzan. So here what is planned for the next hour or so that we are together. First, I'll give you an overview of the scope of the work that we're doing at the Aspire Lab and our overall objective of vision. Then Yu-Hsin will share with you the results of a very detailed synthesis that she has done, highlighting the multiple benefits of the PrEP intervention. Next, Michal will share with you and walk you through the process of implementing PrEP in inclusive schools and how she collaborated with different stakeholders within the Ministry of Education in order to foster change and adoption of the PrEP intervention. Finally, we'll have some time for question and answers. I do ask you to enter your questions to the chat. You can do it as we speak, but we will address them at the end. Okay, so let's start with our objective at the Aspire Lab. So our main objective is to develop knowledge and tools with the purpose of optimizing the participation and the environment of children, youth, and young adults with disabilities. We go up to age 30 in different settings, at the home, at the school, at community, at the workplace. We see participation, like many others, as involvement in life situations that occurs through the engagement in activities that are meaningful for the child, for the youth, and for their family, things that really matters to them. So the whole idea of choice, preferences, or priority is very important for us when we investigate the concept of participation. And we also focused on participation that is done in real-life setting within the child's own context. When it comes to the environment, we extensively examine the impact of the environment on participation. And when we look at the environment, we take a broader approach. We're not just focusing on the physical environment, but also on the social aspect of the environment, the institutional aspect of the environment, and the attitudinal aspect of the environment, because we know that all those facets of the environment really shape child's participation. In our lab, there are 3 pillars of research, and today we're going to talk about 2 of them. The first is participation intervention. We mainly focus on the PrEP intervention that aim to improve participation of children, youth, and young adults in activity of choice by changing the aspects of the environment only. And Yu-Hsin will give you a really nice summary of the benefits that can be generated by this intervention. We're also focusing on developing measures that can, particularly self-reported measures, that can capture not only participation, but the impact of the environment and participation. An example is the YPAM. I'll say a few words about it today, but it will not be the main focus of our session today. Lastly, we'll focus on implementation initiative. So here we are leading knowledge translation initiative that aim to accelerate the uptake of evidence surrounding participation, evidence about effective strategies to remove environmental barriers into day-to-day practice. And Michal will walk us through this process of implementing PrEP in inclusive schools. Few words about the PrEP for those of you who are not familiar with that. Intervention. So the PrEP is an environment-based intervention, and it aims to build capacity of children, youth, families, and other stakeholders, whether it's in the community or the school, to problem solve and to find together solutions-based strategies to environmental barriers. We do so through coaching and education, and of course a lot of exchange of information with all parties. But we're not just focusing on barriers, we're also focusing on support and resources, hence the R of the PrEP. And we are trying together with the family to not only identify resources within the child's community, but also leverage and build on those resources in order to facilitate participation. Important things to say is that PrEP does not focus on body functions. We're not trying to change the child, and we're moving away from any type of impairment level approach. PrEP has 5 steps. There is a very detailed manual available at the Ken Child website. You're welcome to take a look. I'm not going to go over the 5 steps due to lack of time. But I also say that there is an online module that we have developed that can walk you through the 5 steps of the PrEP with interactive videos, some examples, and a bank of strategies to remove environmental barriers. So you're welcome definitely to visit our module. So the PrEP has been tested globally in different parts of the world and actually being tested as we speak internationally, as you can see in different countries here, also among individuals with different conditions and also in different contexts. And we have seen until now, and Yu-Hsin will give you a more detailed summary about that, is that PrEP is quite effective in improving the participation in the selected participation goals that we were working on during the PrEP. But we were also curious to see what other benefits can be generated from the PrEP that goes beyond those 3 activities that we focus on during the intervention. So we have developed the project Beyond, which speaks to body function enhancement for youth through participation in real-world context. And in this kind of study, we're trying to see whether improving participation using PrEP by changing aspects of the environment only, we can at the same time almost automatically improve body function outcomes such as motor, behavior, and emotional aspects without really directing or modifying body function. So this is something that we have some evidence to support it, and Yu-Hsin will talk about it a little bit more, how those benefits comes to play. We're also curious to see if and how PrEP can build capacity of youth to develop solution-based strategies to remove environmental barriers on their own without therapist support and to pursue a new activity or participation goal. So this is a study that is led by my PhD student, Mallory Ryan. In her study, she is working with youth who have already accomplished one goal with the PrEP, and then she is investigating the outcomes and the processes of setting and working toward a goal on their own without therapy support. We will be happy to share with you the results in, I would say, a couple of years. The second pillar of our research program speaks to participation measure. We have developed the YPAM, which is a self-reported assessment for individual age 12 to 30. It looks at participation in different domains, home, school, community, and the workplace. We have successfully tested it among different populations, as you can see here: physical disability, visual impairment, progressive disorders. However, none of those populations or samples that we have been working with had any kind of cognitive or intellectual or communication disorders. So now we plan to make the YPAM accessible using access technology, so it will be able to be completed by everyone. Lastly, we are focusing on implementation initiative. We have developed the PKT roadmap and also a booklet that can guide stakeholders in the process of collaborating with relevant parties and fostering a change in practice toward participation. Michal will share with you how she used this roadmap in order to foster change in inclusive schools toward a focus on participation. So these are, in general, our 3 pillars of research. I'll hand the floor to our speakers, Yu-Hsin Hsieh, who is currently a postdoc working with our group. She has a background in physiotherapy, and she will share with you detailed synthesis she has done on the benefits of PrEP. And then Michal Waisman-Nitzan, who is an OT, and a former postdoc within our lab, and that will share with you how she implements PrEP in inclusive schools. And Michal is now teaching at the Haifa University. So I'll stop here. And I'll give the floor to Yu-Hsin to talk to us about the participation effect and outcome. Thank you, Yu-Hsin.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Can you see my screen? The PowerPoint. Okay, perfect. Just a moment. Okay, yes, wonderful. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Adana, for your introduction. My name is Yu-Hsin Hsieh. In the following presentation, I will talk about the multiple benefits of PrEP intervention. And this work is a collaboration with Dana and one of the PhD students at our lab, Mallory Ryan. And together we map the PrEP effects and also synthesize the magnitude of the effects. For the background of this work, enhancing participation is an important and ultimate outcome in rehabilitation, and also a crucial process or means to facilitate children and youth development and learning. And recent studies have reported a range of outcomes generated by participation-based intervention. For example, changes in body functions or quality of life resulting from participation in activities. Also, participation at present could impact long-term participation outcomes. So given a different aspect of participation, it's important to have a systematic way to organize the participation effects. And in this work, we focus on PrEP intervention. As Dana have introduced in the first session, PrEP is an evidence-based intervention focusing on removing environmental barriers and engaging children and youth in self-children activities. So the intervention is to build a participation team and focus on environmental strategies to support children and youth to attain meaningful participation in their communities. Recent studies have used the individual-based design to demonstrate the effect. And this design is unique and strong. It can show the trajectory of changes within the participants and compare the effect across the participants. In the past decade, several studies have demonstrated PrEP have different effects, not only improving participation, but also affecting children and youth motor and mental body function and well-being outcomes. So the aim of this work, we would like to synthesize the current evidence generated from PrEP intervention. The first aim is to showcase and map different participation effects. And the second is to evaluate the magnitude of this effect and focusing on the COPM performance scores. So for the first objective to map participation effects, we use a participation outcome matrix as shown here. And this matrix is referred to early scholars' work. It includes 3 dimensions of outcome, which are intermediate, instrumental, and ultimate outcomes. And based on the time frames or the context outcomes, it includes the transient and the enduring effects. So I start from the ultimate outcomes. The ultimate outcomes means the outcomes are the target end of the intervention. So they are important on their own. And for ultimate transient effects, it means these outcomes, they are specific in terms of the context, time, or activities. For example, the youth participate in a specific children activities in their community. And for more ultimate enduring outcomes, it means that these outcomes are broad in terms of context, activities, or are long-lasting. For example, youth increased participation in community and also in other settings. They are not targeted by the intervention. And for the instrumental effects, the outcomes means that enhancing participation automatically leads to other outcomes. They are not directly targeted by the intervention. For example, increased youth participation in activities lead to other outcomes, such as increasing muscle strength or decreasing stress following participation in an activity. This speaks to instrumental transient effects. And instrumental enduring outcomes mean that enhancing participation automatically leads to other enduring outcomes. For example, increasing participation in activities further increase self-efficacy of youth with disabilities. And for intermediate outcomes, it means this precondition or outcome that facilitate intervention towards outcomes that are broad they are specific and can toward the participation, further toward the participation outcomes. For example, training a youth to operate a power wheelchair in the communities could facilitate him move around in the community for the sake of participation. And intermediate enduring outcomes means this precondition or outcome, they could facilitate intervention towards outcome they are broad or long-lasting. For example, in knowledge translation intervention, increasing therapist knowledge or coaching skills could facilitate their implementation of participation-based intervention in their practice. So to do this mapping exercise, we follow the procedures outlined here. And in total, we identify 11 quantitative studies from PrEP, and 2 researchers independently reviewed and mapped outcomes. And the findings were validated by the senior researcher and also consulted with the external expert. So here, among the 11 identified studies, there are in total 133 children and youth with disabilities aged 4 to 25. In total, there are 229 COPM goals were achieved in these studies, and each participant have 1 to 3 goals. And these studies are conducted in 4 countries, 7 are in Canada, 2 in Israel, and 1 in Ireland and Taiwan, respectively. For the study design, 7 studies use interrupted time series design with multiple baselines, and 7 studies use repeated measure design, and 1 study use randomized control trial. And here are our findings. Among these 11 studies, most outcomes were mapped or linked to ultimate transient effect, followed by instrumental transient effects. And there are a few outcomes were linked to enduring level, either at ultimate dimension or intermediate dimension. And I will describe these findings in the following slide. So for ultimate transient effects, we found the 9 studies showed a positive impact on increasing youth or children's performance in self-children activities. For example, the youth joined a photographic class in the community. And these outcomes or effects are specific in terms of time and context targeted by the intervention. And some studies, I think 4 studies, they also showed increased satisfaction of performance of self-chosen activities. And 6 studies, they showed a positive impact of the overall participation patterns. For example, increasing the frequency of participation or a number of activities, or increasing youth involvement in community activities. And 2 studies shows changes in environment aspects, either increasing community support for the environment or decreasing environmental barriers. And there are 3 studies related to parent satisfaction. Either the parents showed high satisfaction with the intervention or decrease the number of activities they desire to see changes. In addition, we found some studies showed the positive effect on instrumental transient effects. These outcomes or effects are not targeted by the intervention. For example, 2 studies shows that increasing children's participation also leads to changes in some aspect of health-related quality of life, such as increasing their physical well-being or social support. And 2 studies found increasing participation in youth with physical disabilities also leads to further change in their cognitive, affective, or motor body functions. And some outcomes are linked to enduring effects at the ultimate and enduring effects. 1 study shows that children increase their frequency of participation at follow-up after the intervention. And 2 studies shows the children and youth increase their participation frequency or diversity of activities at home or in school, not initially targeted by the intervention. And 1 study applying KT intervention, training the therapist to use PrEP intervention, showed the changes in therapist practice behaviors towards environment-based approach. This shows an ultimate enduring effect of KT intervention. And the same study also shows the change in therapist applied knowledge. After the intervention, the therapist gain knowledge on identifying environmental barrier of support and building a participation team to support the client's participation. And gaining this knowledge is an important necessary step towards implementation of participation-based intervention. Hence, it implies an intermediate effect that contributes to long-term outcomes. So through this mapping exercise, the outcomes of PrEP were linked to various dimensions and type of effects. And for the second objective, to synthesize the magnitude of effect, we did not synthesize all the outcomes because different studies, they use different outcomes related to purposes. But the common outcome in these studies is COPM. Therefore, we synthesize the clinical significant change in COPM performance and also to calculate and report the effect size. In this forest plot, we could see the mean score change of COPM performance in each study. And the vertical line here means that the 2-point score change. And based on COPM, 2-point score change indicate clinical significant changes. So here at 8 or 9 studies, they show a clinical significant improvement in COPM performance scores. In addition, regarding the effect size, 5 of 9 studies shows large effects on COPM outcomes, and other 4 studies shows a small to medium effects. So in conclusion, we based on this mapping exercise, we identified multidimensional outcomes from PrEP interventions. And most of the outcomes were associated with participation effects in a specific context or time, which are targeted by the intervention, linking to the transient effects. And some indirect outcomes are related to physical mental health and the motor and affective body functions. They are not targeted by the intervention, speaking to instrumental effects. Also, a few effects are related to participation in broader contexts not targeted by the intervention, linked to the enduring effects. So the multiple benefits from one single participation-based intervention are encouraging and could guide clinical practice in provide efficient and effective therapies, especially since the current evidence shows that the children with disability have co-occurrence of mental health issues. And for youth with physical disabilities, their motor function may decline with age. So the multitude effects from participation-based interventions could potentially alleviate the burden of health service systems. However, we also identify the gap for enduring effects that need more evidence. So we propose study designs for future research in investigate this effect. And to examine the ultimate enduring effect, it's crucial to examine the capacity building of children and youth to engage in self-determined activities and to assess whether the youth learn strategies to participate in various activities they desire or are matter for them. So we just suggest the future research could use individual-based design with a mixed-method approach to investigate the ultimate enduring effects. For individual-based designs, the participation outcomes and other instrumental outcomes can be repeatedly and concurrently measured over the study period. This approach could help us discern to what extent and at what timing the effects occur in each participant, and compare the effect across the participants. The Beyond study led by Dr. Anaby currently use this design involving large samples in Quebec and Ontario to investigate the ultimate effects. And in a mixed method approach, in addition to quantitative outcomes, the researchers could observe or interview with youth about their experience in intervention to gain insights into the problem-solving strategies they learn and how they leverage the environmental resources and strengths to pursue their goals. And triangulating on quantitative and qualitative outcomes could provide a comprehensive understanding of the capacity building process and its relation to outcomes. And currently, Anaby's PhD project uses this approach to dive into the capacity building process of youth with physical disabilities during PrEP intervention. In addition, to investigate the long-term enduring effect, we also recommend implementing a prolonged follow-up phase after the intervention. And during this phase, youth will apply the learned strategy to participate in the new activity of their choice on their own. And by comparing the changes in activity performance during this phase with those observed during the intervention, we can get insight into the sustainable effects of the intervention. So for the take-home message from this work, systematic mapping effects using PrEP as an example enhance our understanding of the multitude of outcomes generated from participation-based intervention. And multiple benefits from participation-based intervention could guide clinical practice in providing efficient and effective services. We recommend the future research prioritize long-lasting, enduring effects and investigate the process of youth capacity building towards sustainable participation outcomes. And this work, we want to thank Professor Mats Grano at Jönköping University in Sweden and Dr. Lisa Avery at Toronto University for their valuable input and suggestions on this work. And this paper is also published in Disability and Rehabilitation last December. So if you are interested in reading to more details, you could refer to this article. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Yu-Hsin. It's so nice to see how many outcomes can be generated by wide single intervention, and I think it speaks to the cost effectiveness of the PrEP, although we didn't see groups around the world that are looking specifically at cost effectiveness, but I think it speaks to that in a way. So thank you so much. We'll move to Michal. So Michal, please, you can share your slides, and I'll give you the floor to talk about implementing PrEP in inclusive schools.
Okay. So I need to see
the full slide. Yeah.
Wait just a second. Okay, so can you see the full slide now?
Yes.
Okay. So hello everyone, and thank you, Dana, for this great opportunity to present in this forum. I will be speaking of a series of knowledge translation projects that we have implemented within the Ministry of Education in Israel during the past 3 years. And these programs were planned and implemented together with Dr. Yonativ Zori, who I saw is here, from the Israeli Ministry of Education and Oranim Academic College. And actually forming a successful partnership requires identifying relevant opportunities in the context of application. So we built on policy changes in the Israeli Ministry of Education regarding the inclusion of children with disabilities in mainstream education. And we also built on existing resources. The KT programs were integrated into the official professional development program in the ministry. So in the school context, participation comprises of a range of occupations. In addition to the academic activities, children participate in formal and informal social activities and in recreational activities. But still, the participation of children with disabilities in school life remains limited compared to their peers. So to address this knowledge to practice gap in the education context, we applied a series of KT programs based on the participation knowledge translation roadmap. The figure that you see here illustrates the micro, the meso, and the macro levels and stakeholders that are important in identifying ways to implement participation-focused innovation. The roadmap also embeds behavioral elements that show how individual and organization can identify where they are and work toward the ideal. Our KT initiations focused on different stakeholders within the Israeli Ministry of Education. We tailored the program for the different stakeholders groups OTs, other healthcare professionals working in the school settings, and OT managers working in the ministry. We have also addressed different educational settings, special education and inclusive education, as well as the schools and primary schools. But today I will be focusing on findings of our research about two programs, focusing on the PrEP program for OTs in inclusive education, and the PrEP 5-hour information session for OT managers. So the objectives of the study were to examine the effectiveness of PrEP training program on improved knowledge of school-based OTs in applying PrEP principles, the change in their self-perceived practice behaviors and the reasons for change, and changes in the actual participation of children with disabilities in mainstream education that were served by these OTs, and to examine stakeholders' perspectives on implementing participation-based practice upon completion of the KT program. In the first part, we trained 42 OTs in implementing PrEP within their school-based practice. Of them, 39 participated in the study, along with 39 children who were receiving OT service by the participating OT. The training program included 30 hours during 8 sessions for 10 weeks. And the content of the program presented the concept of inclusions, participation, environment, and real-life context intervention, introducing the PrEP protocol, defining and setting participation goals according to PrEP, and building a participation team, and applying the PrEP's 5-step intervention in the real-world practice during the program. And participants were, as I said, the therapists that were recruited from different districts across Israel, and the 39 children at the ages of 4 to 15 years. And their main education setting was primary school, and diagnoses included speech and language disorders, autism, cerebral palsy, and mental health disorders. Measures related to the therapist and children's outcomes. We have measured the change in the therapist's knowledge using a standardized case study. We assume that 80% of the sample will reach a total score of 17 out of 20. The self-perceived change in the OT's clinical practice was evaluated using the Perfect. And we also looked at the children's outcome using COPM scales across 3 time points at baseline, post-intervention, and at follow-up. So when asked to apply the learned knowledge about the PrEP's 4 key elements in a clinical case study, the therapist demonstrated a high rate of knowledge in all the 4 elements, setting participation goal, mapping the influential factors that are relevant to the goal, setting intervention strategies, and suggesting a relevant participation team. And indeed, 80% of the sample reached a score of 17 or more out of 20. Therapists reflected on changes in their clinical practice across 3 elements of the Perfect, identifying problems, assessment, and intervention. And we have revealed 3 main themes, focusing on the environment, expanding partnerships, and focusing on participation in meaningful activities. So first, focusing on the environment involved adopting an environmental-based approach for identifying clients' problem, using environment-based strategies for intervention, and when selecting tools for assessment. And one of the therapists stated, the change involves addressing environments in which I was intervening less often in the past. Another reported change was expanding the variety of partners involved in applying the intervention. This included parents and teachers, but also classmates, schools, headmasters, extended family members, and community-based instructors. Here is one of the citations saying, thinking of partners who are not necessarily healthcare professionals, teachers, child's classmate, and the school's headmaster. And lastly, focusing on participation in meaningful activities following the KT program, therapists redirected attention toward participation in activities that they are meaningful for the child. This change was evident in identifying the main problem and in the intervention, especially setting the goals, as therapists shifted their focus away from the child's impairment toward participation in an activity the child wants or wishes to do. For example, one of the participants said to begin the therapy process with a more occupational perspective rather than first looking at personal factors that need to be changed. We have also asked therapists to reflect on facilitators and barriers for changing their practice, and the school environment, including the attitudes of others, was addressed both as a facilitator and a barrier of change in the therapist's practice. Lastly, children's participation levels were measured by the COPM, and you can see the changes in the performance and in the satisfaction scores. that were clinically significant between time 1 and time 2 and statistically significant post-KT program and during the follow-up. And here are a few examples of goals that were set by the children in the program. For example, during school recess, they were talking about playing ball games with classmates in the playground, during the afternoon getting together with classmates after school, and in class joining a birthday club. And all these findings were published in a paper that you can find, and it was published in the Physical and Occupational Therapy in Pediatrics. In the second part, we aim to further understand the perspectives of occupational therapists and occupational therapy managers on the implementation of new knowledge regarding participation-based practice. So going back to the PKT roadmap, these groups represented distinct ecological levels in the Israeli Ministry of Education. And we had a subsample of school-based OTs who completed the therapist KT program that took part in 2 focus groups. And the managers completed an open-ended questionnaire with similar topics to those in the interview guide for the therapist focus groups. We identified main themes within each ecological level across the 2 units of analysis, the OTs and the managers. In blue are the micro-level themes, in green are the meso-level themes, and in brown, the macro-level themes. The micro-level theme addressed perceptions related to knowledge, attitudes, skills, and practice behaviors that are common. Here you see the 3 micro themes that are common to both groups: setting participation-focused goals, expanding partnerships, and PrEP contribution to redefining occupational therapist role in the school. So here are 2 examples from the participant citation when referring to expanding partnerships. One of the managers said another advantage of PrEP is actively engaging the child's parents in the intervention program in order to achieve the goals, something that is less seen in the education context. And a therapist said, what really motivated me was to create a participation team coming from her, from the child's own environment, a team that includes others rather than just me or her personal aide. So I engaged 2 of her girlfriends. I think that this was the key success in achieving the goal, and it made a huge difference. Another theme revealed perceptions about PrEP's contribution to redefining OT's role in the school. And for example, one of the managers said, and now, in light of the PrEP, the essence of the word occupational therapy has a meaning for the patient. It is exactly the essence of our profession. And an OT commented, I think the change should come from us, the language that we use with parents and staff, and speak about the meaning of therapy. What is therapy about? It is not me and the child being together in a therapy room. 2 additional micro-level themes emerged by therapists only. You can see it here, expanding children's activity to different settings and contexts, and setting and shifting from body functions to participation. Regarding this shift, one of the OTs said a significant change is shifting from fixing the child and working on skills to being convinced that if you will focus on participation, then you will also achieve better skills along the way. I witnessed firsthand that some skills have improved as a result of working on participation. The meso-level analysis addressed the organizational aspects of implementing PrEP in school, and participants in both groups addressed the school PrEP fit and organizational barriers for PrEP's application in the school. So the school PrEP fit team highlighted the linkage between the disciplines of education and health inherently embedded in occupational therapy intervention in school, and emphasized that a change may be required, especially in educators' attitudes regarding the practice of school-based OTs. This was reflected in the following comment. The PrEP is a comprehensive intervention that provides an opportunity to involve the non-clinical domains, such as educational domains, in addition to the therapeutic work. This requires explaining and educating the school staff. The second common theme at the meso level included barriers to implementing PrEP in the school setting. Examples include lack of flexibility in the school procedures and unsupportive attitudes of other professionals and the school staff. And future steps needed to implement PrEP in inclusive schools emerged by managers only. They elaborated on ensuring sustainability, including continuing courses for OTs and at the regional level and at the school level. The macro level analysis emphasized a link between PrEP implementation and current policies within the ministry. Two themes emerged: by managers only, anchoring PrEP to the existing agenda and policy of the ministry, and leveraging successes to accelerate PrEP implementation in the ministry. Managers linked the PrEP approach to the ministry policy regarding therapy resources in inclusive education in Israel, and underlined PrEP's role in paving the way to expand occupational therapy practice in the ministry. This is one of the citations from a manager that participated in the study. The approach is applicable as a part of current resources that children in inclusive education are entitled to, and at the same time can increase the presence of OTs and occupational therapy positions at all educational settings. So our finding implied that involving an active application of the PrEP in the KT program promoted a shift in the OT's approach and minimized no-do gaps. This shift related to expanding partners that OT can collaborate with beyond healthcare providers or teachers, and to applying an occupational focused approach. The importance of other professional attitudes revealed in both parts of the study implied that a change in school-based occupational therapy services requires to address stakeholders at the school level, at the meso level, and at the ministry, at the macro level. And the improved children's scores in the COPM post-intervention and at follow-up highlight PrEP's applicability in the education context and among children with wide variety of disabilities. Going back to the PKT roadmap, the participation-focused innovation was systematically applying the PrEP protocol in educational context. We have initiated KT programs at the micro and at the meso level, involving clinicians, clients, and their families and managers. And we have used the PKT both as guidelines for our initiatives and as a theoretical model to frame our findings. Participants, especially therapists, moved along the behavioral continuum, the motivational continuum of the PKT from I don't or I can't to I try and even I do. And some participants moved from forward to we do, as they have elaborated their actions beyond their school organization, serving as knowledge brokers to wider communities of therapists and educational professionals. So thank you. And also the findings from the other part of the study were published, and hopefully you can reach that and see it in more details.
Thank you very much, Michal. Yes, the second part is published in AJOT if you want to take a look a little bit more. So we are finished on time for our own presentations, and it was very important for us to set some time to have a chat with you, a discussion, some questions that you may have. So you may enter any comments or suggestion or thought or reflection in the chat, or you can just maybe use the mic to join the discussion.